Back again. Okay, folks, I've been reviewing the last couple of things I put up for Mark's Remarks. I think I may be just showing this on X. If you don't get X, you may not be seeing it anymore. I'm gonna see what happens the next couple of videos. Unfortunately, it's hard for me to figure out what's going on because I'm putting this on X as well as on Facebook. And, I have limited Facebook friends and family. And since I don't see responses from anybody, whether it's X or Facebook or whatnot, since I'm not seeing responses, I really can't tell where people are looking at me. But if I'm not getting thumbs up or anything like that, that's telling me that people aren't watching. Well, I can look at the information on my uh, page, and I can see that how many people have watched it. So one a couple of times back, I got 15 views, another 27, but the last couple I've had 3 and 0 so far. Now that's only been a few days, and it could be, in 2 days, all of a sudden it could pop up to 20. So I'm going to let this go a little while, but I'm just giving you a heads up. If you don't see, one, if you're not responding to me, I don't know that you want to watch. And two, well, that's it. So if I don't, I'm just assuming no one's watching, and no point. I don't want to clutter up Facebook if nobody at Facebook wants to watch any of this stuff. Again, it'll be on X at least for a while until I find nobody's watching it there either. Anyway, I saw a video a few days ago about the James Webb satellite, the James Webb um, telescope, and Dr. Jason Lisle, who challenged the theories and the assumption of secular and mainstream science. And I'm just going to give you, I'm going to show it in the description box. It'll be there. You can look at it yourself. As I keep telling you, I'm into what's true scientifically. And to give a context, now this isn't a scientific thing. It's just a context as far as attitude goes. And you know, we learn through experience, right? Um, over the years, I've shared from time to time. I've shared things like where I'll be in some climate change, so environmental sustainability kind of meeting, and or having a discussion with other people who have had a like mind of mine over the past about environmental sustainability. And I would just be sort of surprised that people who, especially people who were ministers or things like that, who have such a closed mind to anything but this one thing. So context-wise, I came across this today. I looked for it online. I cannot find it. I'm sure it exists because other videos that are by the same person. But this is from Brandy Cruz. It was a Brandy Undivided by or with Brandy Cruz, Brandi Cruz, Kruse. And one of the things that she was sharing her viewpoint on what has happened out in Seattle here in the last week or so, as she points out, and quoting her, I'm not a particularly religious person, and she said she didn't go to church. So she wasn't one of the people who attended this rally in order to support the rally specifically. I think she went out to just see what's going on. Her organization is Undivided. She's looking for unity in our culture, I believe. And so she shows all this video. It is, and she comments on it, and it is just mind-boggling. And I'd seen other reports on this incident of this these Christians having a rally where they were basically having a concert, basically, or it was a worship service, worship concert. A lot of churches they basically have a concert for their song period. But and everybody was there. She points out how everybody was peaceful within this area in the park. The police had closed off the park, so people couldn't just come in. They had to come through a choke point where the police would let them in. And they were peaceful. It was biracial, all kind of ages, multicultural, etc. It looked like what you'd want the world to be, she said, basically. And yet, at the right outside the barriers that the police had set up, you had these people with masks on and everything, and blue hair and purple this and everything else, who were just yelling the most ugly, mean, hateful things. You know, your kid about your children should die, or just all kind of ugly stuff. People who were so totally intolerant wouldn't even let people get into this park area. It was just, and she talks about this. So I'm talking to you, I'm mentioning this to talk about the mind, the condescending mind of some people. So now I'm going to move closer to the topic that I'm talking about tonight. So another thing I watched just the other day, this is another video. I watched this guy talking about, he's an atheist, and he believes the world is round, and he was showing where they recorded several flat earth believers going to Antarctica, and other people took them down there, paid their way down there. This is the story. And I saw some of their video. I can't tell you it's true or not true, but it looks good. So, and what they were pointing out, the big point of the video is that you go to Antarctica, and during certain parts of the year, just as at the North Pole, it's daytime all day. The sun never goes down. It just goes around. Okay? And or more like around here, right? It's close to the horizon, but it doesn't drop below the horizon. And so the point was, well, the Earth must be a sphere, otherwise this wouldn't be happening. The maps that flat Earth people have about it, the Earth being basically a pie shape, and there's some elaborate thought about it. And you have heard me before lift up my a little 1 + 1 = 2, 2 minus 0 = 2, 1 times 2 = 2, 4 - 2 = 2, 6 - 4 = 2. You can have all kind of formulas to get to the same answer, right? So it's sort of hard to argue with what they found, though. So this looks like a good disapproval of the flat Earth idea, although there's plenty of good stuff that I appreciate the flat Earth guys, being inquisitive and being, not just accepting whatever they hear. They're trying to, what if it could work out another way? And that's what they've done. They've come up with the same answers another way. But sometimes you get to the point where, well, it is what it is, right? So, but what's funny to me, well, not funny, it's sad, is the guy who was doing the video, he was so absolutely condescending and downright hateful and derogatory. Now, you don't have to be that way. You can just say, look, here's the information. The flat Earth guys are wrong. But no, not this guy. And this is an attitude, again, these people who think they are so right. They have got a worldview that they are right about, and they are narrow, condescending, and hateful. Dr. Neil deGrasse Tyson, I've seen him in interviews where you can't talk to the guy about something that he believes in as real. And he'll make arguments that are silly arguments, really. I mean, they're arguments that if anybody really looks at them, it's like, what are you talking about? There's other ways to get there. So, but he can be so condescending. And if you're one of those condescending people, think about that. You don't need to be condescending about being right, if you're right. And maybe you don't need to be condescending because maybe you need to do what those flat earthers do. What I'm willing to do is, and let's look at if there's other options. That's why I even pay attention to a flat earther. Is it, what do they have to say? Right? Is there something worthwhile out of what? Maybe they're saying some things that are worthwhile or meaningful or etc. Who knows? I'm not trying to convince you to change your idea about flat Earth. In fact, what I'm going to share right now wouldn't be a flat earther if you believed any of it. Now, this Dr. Jason Lisle, he's challenging these theories and assumptions of what he calls secular. I would call mainstream science, the science that is taught in our uh, science books that seem to get into our text, the science that we see on PBS and NBC and virtually everywhere, the ideas that are just assumed to be true. And I guarantee you this: if you're watching this, it's likely you've gone that deep into looking at whether this stuff is true or not. Okay, but and I've had my own experience, as I've shared on other videos, about coming to the realization that this whole climate change idea, although the climate is always changing, it always changes, but the political theater about it is all political theater. And it's not based on reality. It's based on assumptions that aren't provable. It's based on models that are not, they're not taking all models in, they're just selecting the one models they want to make their point. And because of that, you can't trust them because they're not looking at all. As I think I've said before, if you're watching a hurricane, the model of hurricanes, they'll say that here's one hurricane, it's going this, the hurricane's going to go this way. Here it says it's going that way, it's going that way. And here's our unified model, and this is the model that gives the medium of everything, and it's going to go right through there. So we're thinking that's probably the best place to be ready. They're just models, and then the hurricane comes and it doesn't do what they say it's going to do, right? So, well, what he's pointing out, and what I have learned in my many years now, is that schools teach us assumptions. They don't teach us evidence. They may give you a piece of evidence, but it's not holistically evidence. Okay, now we see this, and therefore we assume this. We theorize this. We see this, therefore this is true. Uniformitarianism. This is the idea that whatever's happening, we see in the environment today is exactly the way it's been for the last 5,000, 6,000, 10,000, 100,000 years. But there's too many things when you really start looking at this. Uniformitarianism just isn't true. There's all kind of other information, other facts and evidence that proves that certain things aren't true, that we assume is true. One is, it's because people want to believe certain things, then when they look at the evidence, and this would have been true, let's say 500 years ago. People in Europe who were Christian, they would see something and they would attribute it in a biblical kind of way. If you lived in India, you'd attribute it in a Hindu kind of way or whatever. It would fit your worldview. Okay. Now, we've learned a lot since then. So a biblical worldview, certain ideas that might have been a biblical worldview 500 years ago. Today, we're saying, well, no, we're not sure that is particularly true, but we do see many, 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 many things that certainly fit a biblical worldview. And so this idea that the Bible is just bunk and has no basis in reality is really a false idea. You may not agree with that, okay? Go along, do whatever you want to. You don't live how you want to, and don't agree with it. I'm not telling you that you have to believe it. But I am urging anyone, do the research. If you really want to know, if you want to challenge yourselves about your worldview, go look at a creation or a Genesis or something like that kind of video science. And these guys are scientists, and they're just giving you stuff left and right that you're going, oh, well, sure, that makes, obviously. So what we were taught before, is, and I've said this many times, the kind of thing that raised my antennas was how, dinosaurs were lizards, and then they were birds, and then they went back to being lizards, and they go back and forth to being lizards and birds, okay? All kind of time periods change. They're always changing. to fit. They find a new piece of information. Therefore, it must be. How many humanoid skeletons we find that are supposedly hundreds of thousands of years apart, at least multitudes of thousands, like 50 or 60 or 90 or more like 100,000, hundreds of thousands. And I don't. They aren't even, and they're nowhere close together. And yet we're supposed to believe, oh, this is part of the evolutionary chain. Come on. You find one over there, find two there. Come on. Anyway, that's just setting context here. So James Webb telescope, and he talks about one of the things that they theorized was that the universe becomes more sparse and less elementally diverse. That is, there's less elements. They theorized that there was only a few things like helium and hydrogen, or a couple of things like that. That all these many elements that we have on our elemental chart today weren't in existence. That those have been created through the process of evolution of the universe. Okay, and yet, and of course that goes with the assumption of a Big Bang, like Stephen Hawking's and stuff like that. So, but this satellite has been able to see way out there into the depths of the universe, and that's not what they're finding. They're finding multitudes and multitudes and multitudes of galaxies that are well formed. It's not some gaseous mass way out there. The theory is that you and I have been raised on is when we look at a star, we're looking at a star 100 million years ago or something, right? We're not looking at what it looks like today. That is 100 million years ago. I'm just throwing out a number, but you get my drift. But this James Webb telescope, now it's gone out there beyond all the muckiness of, if you look at all the distractions of other kind of heavenly bodies all around us here in space, and getting out there beyond our solar system or whatnot, and you can take a good shot of it. They're expecting to see less universe as it looks back, but there's not less universe. It looks like right here pretty much. There are well-formed galaxies where they're expecting, they expected that, okay, that as the Big Bang happened, then there's loose elements. There's matter, loose matter. There's gaseous and dust and whatever it might be. Right? It's loose, and it only over time does it start developing into these tighter forms, into stars and galaxies and things like that. But they're not finding that. They didn't find that. What they found was, hey, 100 zillion billion light years away, I'm just making a number up to give you an idea, it looks the same as it does next door. Watch this guy's video, and he talks about the science because he's a scientist. I'm not a scientist. I'm sharing a video for you, and I'm just giving you some highlights of kind of ideas that are in there. Another thing he talked about is, because he was just talking about the science, the moon. If the universe was millions of years old, the moon would have collided with Earth, because it is moving away from the Earth little by little. So at some point, if it was millions of years old, it would have been right on top of the Earth, right? So the million years idea of the universe being millions of years old doesn't seem to make sense in that light. Spiral galaxies, another thing you've talked about, these were interesting things. Spiral galaxies that we see, you can look at all kind of NASA photos. These galaxies over time would get tighter and tighter and tighter, like a spring tightening up, which would, what would that do? I don't know, but they're not tight. That's the point. He talked about Edwin Hubble, who founded the whole idea of redshift, where things seem to be in the telescopes as things move away. It has a particular effect. So many people thought the fabric of space is stretching in the process. And you may remember 20 years ago or so, I remember quite clearly about how, okay, everybody, the universe is expanding and it's going to expand out of existence. They don't believe that anymore, I don't think, but that's what they were talking about. It's going to expand out of existence, seemed to be the idea at the time. So, and in fact, the Big Bang theory was created to explain this expansion. I think that was about 1922 or so. I remember quickly. So that's where Big Bang isn't something that people thought of. You know, the Greeks didn't have Big Bang, right? The whatever the Mesopotamians didn't have Big Bang. They had all kind of other kind of theories, but that some that are true today, but they didn't have Big Bang. So the Big Bang is just created by scientists just to try to get a handle. It's a theory, a Big Bang theory. It's not a Big Bang reality. Well, maybe this is the way it happens. You and I, every day, we see things all around us. And we say, well, maybe X, Y, Z happened. I do that constantly. I see something, I say, I wonder what happened there. Maybe so-and-so happened. That's just the theory. Just because it comes out of my mouth doesn't mean it's real. Other ideas that he talked about was, Jupiter, which emits twice as much energy, they say, as it receives from the sun. So the sun is hitting Jupiter with, 1 unit of energy, and Jupiter is emitting 2 units of energy. Therefore, over millions of years, Jupiter would right now be ice. It wouldn't have heat in it. It wouldn't be a gaseous heated thing. It'd be a solid piece of ice. So a similar thing is going on with Pluto. Similar things going on with Neptune. These are heated planets. They have heat in them, and they would. How can they have eternal heat if it's been millions of years? They would have cooled off. Our moon is cool, right? So is that because it was a planet of some type that had heat? Maybe it never had heat. A comet or an asteroid doesn't necessarily have heat, right? Here's one of the things that I thought was interesting. Earth's magnetic field has been decaying, but 60,000 only 60,000 years ago, the magnetic field of the Earth would be as strong as a neutron star. And this would rip our bodies apart. Now, we weren't around, nobody thinks we were around 60,000 years ago. Well, maybe, excuse me. I'm sure there's somebody who thinks there's a pre-human creature 60,000 years ago. But if that would rip our bodies apart, then I'm sure it would rip anything that was living apart, right? That's the point. So they can't reject that idea, because to reject that is to reject uniformitarianism, which is things happen in the past just as it's happening today. So anyway, I'm looking over some of the other ideas, but I think that's enough to make the point. I want you to see that some of the stuff that you may see on PBS or on the Learning Channel or on the History Channel or wherever else you might see it, some of the stuff that just are always coming out of experts, talking heads' mouths are things that are maybe held by the official, because we have these official organizations. And just because it's official organizations, in time change their mind, don't they? We're human. We're not perfect. So ideas can change when new information comes about. And we have new information coming about all the time. Historically, archaeologically, new science, and this is one of James Webb satellite. This is one of the things that whatever you were taught over your lifetime, this James Webb satellite has probably disproved some of the stuff that you were taught as if it was real, as if it was a fact. So I urge you to go take a look at it. I'm about the truth. I want to find the truth. I don't want to live a lie. How stupid to waste my life living a lie. Okay? So, I'm looking for the truth. And if you're looking for the truth and you sincerely want to find it, then I urge you to pray to your Creator, even if you don't believe He exists. Pretend He exists. Act like He's a person, because He is. And talk to Him and say, God, I just want to know what's true. I don't care what in the creation is true. If Hinduism is true, that's fine, God. If Buddhism is true, okay. If there's no God, if you don't exist, no problem. But if there is a truth, God, help me to find it. Show me the way. Amen? Have a good day.